A CEO's paralyzed son sat alone at the airport until a black single dad asked, "Why is he all alone?" Terminal C at LaGuardia, nearly midnight. The fluorescent lights hummed. The smell of burnt coffee drifted from a closed cafe. A teenage boy in a wheelchair sat by the gate windows, staring at nothing. His shoulders shook. He'd been crying. The bookstore worker noticed him first. 15 minutes he watched. Travelers rushing past, staff glancing, then looking away. A kid alone, and nobody stopped. The man crossed the terminal. His hands, dark-skinned, scarred across the knuckles, were steady as he crouched down. Eye level, the way you talk to someone you want to actually see. "You okay?" he asked softly. The boy's voice was small. "My dad's assistant was supposed to meet me 2 hours ago. 2 hours. Alone." The man's face shifted. Not anger. Something deeper. Something that looked like recognition. He looked around the terminal and asked louder, clearly, "Where's your family? Why are you sitting here all by yourself?" People turned. The question hung in the air. The boy started to cry again. So the man stayed, offered his phone, got him water, sat on the floor beside the wheelchair and asked about school, about rehab, about the things that make you human instead of invisible. And when the CEO finally arrived, when the boy's father stormed through with lawyers and security and rage, the man stood up slowly, calm, controlled. He'd been here before, not in this terminal, but in this moment, protecting someone when the people who were supposed to weren't there. "You had no right," the CEO spat. "Get away from my son." The man didn't argue, didn't raise his voice, but his hands, the way they stayed steady, the way he breathed like someone trained to hold the line under pressure, that's when you knew. This wasn't just kindness. This was something carved into him, something the CEO couldn't see but would never forget. If you've ever felt invisible, or if you've ever wondered what happens when the overlooked turn out to be extraordinary, stay with this story, because what unfolds next will break your heart and put it back together. Before we begin, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, what's the kindest thing a stranger ever did for you? But to understand how a bookstore worker became the man who would save a CEO's son and shatter everything that CEO believed about power, we need to go back to a small apartment in Brooklyn, to a 9-year-old girl with questions her father couldn't answer, and to the quiet life of a man who had every reason to stay hidden. A CEO's paralyzed son sat alone at the airport until a black single dad asked, "Why is he all alone?" Terminal C at LaGuardia, nearly midnight. The fluorescent lights hummed. The smell of burnt coffee drifted from a closed cafe. A teenage boy in a wheelchair sat by the gate windows, staring at nothing. His shoulders shook. He'd been crying. The bookstore worker noticed him first. 15 minutes he watched. Travelers rushing past, staff glancing, then looking away. A kid, alone, and nobody stopped. The man crossed the terminal. His hands, dark-skinned, scarred across the knuckles, were steady as he crouched down. Eye level, the way you talk to someone you want to actually see. "You okay?" he asked softly. The boy's voice was small. "My dad's assistant was supposed to meet me 2 hours ago. 2 hours. Alone." The man's face shifted. Not anger. Something deeper. Something that looked like recognition. He looked around the terminal and asked louder, clearly, "Where's your family? Why are you sitting here all by yourself?" People turned. The question hung in the air. The boy started to cry again. So the man stayed, offered his phone, got him water, sat on the floor beside the wheelchair and asked about school, about rehab, about the things that make you human instead of invisible. And when the CEO finally arrived, when the boy's father stormed through with lawyers and security and rage, the man stood up slowly, calm, controlled. He'd been here before, not in this terminal, but in this moment, protecting someone when the people who were supposed to weren't there. "You had no right," the CEO spat. "Get away from my son." The man didn't argue, didn't raise his voice, but his hands, the way they stayed steady, the way he breathed like someone trained to hold the line under pressure, that's when you knew. This wasn't just kindness. This was something carved into him. something the CEO couldn't see but would never forget. If you've ever felt invisible, or if you've ever wondered what happens when the overlooked turn out to be extraordinary, stay with this story. Because what unfolds next will break your heart and put it back together. Before we begin, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, what's the kindest thing a stranger ever did for you? But to understand how a bookstore worker became the man who would save a CEO's son and shatter everything that CEO believed about power, we need to go back to a small apartment in Brooklyn, to a 9-year-old girl with questions her father couldn't answer, and to the quiet life of a man who had every reason to stay hidden. The alarm went off at 6:15. Marcus Webb reached over and silenced it before the second beep. His bedroom was small, just enough room for a bed and a dresser. Morning light came through thin curtains, washing everything gray. He sat up slowly. His back ached the way it always did after a full shift on his feet. The apartment was silent, except for the hiss of the radiator. He stood, stretched, and walked barefoot across the cold floor to Nia's room. She was still asleep, curled on her side with one hand tucked under her pillow. Her hair spread across the pillowcase in soft curls that reminded him so much of Simone, he had to look away. "Nia," he said quietly, "time to get up, baby." She groaned and pulled the blanket over her head. Marcus smiled. He sat on the edge of her bed and touched her shoulder. "Come on, school day. 5 more minutes. You said that yesterday, and the day before." She peeked out from under the blanket. Her eyes were still heavy with sleep. "Did you just get home?" "About an hour ago." "You smell like airport." He laughed softly. "What does airport smell like?" "Pretzels and cleaning stuff." "Fair enough. Now get up. I'll make breakfast." She sat up, yawning. Her pajamas had little planets on them. She rubbed her eyes and reached for the journal on her nightstand, the one with the purple cover she never let him read. Marcus stood and left her to wake up fully. In the kitchen, he made scrambled eggs and toast. The stove was old and one of the burners didn't work, but the eggs came out fine. He poured orange juice into 2 mismatched glasses. Nia shuffled in wearing jeans and a hoodie, her backpack already slung over one shoulder. "You didn't do your hair yet," Marcus said. "I'm wearing it down today." "You sure?" She nodded and sat at the small table. Marcus set her plate in front of her. They ate in comfortable silence for a minute. Then Nia looked up at him. "Dad, why do clouds float?" Marcus paused mid-bite. "What?" "Clouds, they're made of water, right?" "Water's heavy, so why don't they fall?" He set his fork down. "Because the water in clouds is in tiny droplets. They're light enough that air currents hold them up. But rain falls. Rain happens when the droplets get too big. They stick together until they're too heavy to float." Nia considered this, chewing slowly. "So clouds are just rain that hasn't happened yet?" "Pretty much," she grinned. "That's cool." Marcus watched her finish her eggs. She had Simone's smile, her curiosity too, the way she looked at the world like it was full of puzzles waiting to be solved. "I have the late shift again tonight," he said. "I know. Mrs. Ganesh said I can go to her place after school if you're not back yet. I'll be back by 4, but if I'm late, you go straight to her apartment. Don't wait outside." "I won't. And your science project's due Friday, right?" Nia nodded. "I'm doing evaporation. I'm almost done. You need help?" "Nope, I got it." She stood and rinsed her plate in the sink. Marcus grabbed his jacket from the hook by the door. They walked together through the neighborhood. Bedford-Stuyvesant in the morning was alive with motion. Neighbors heading to work, kids on their way to school. The bodega on the corner was already open, and Mr. Rames was sweeping the sidewalk. "Morning, Marcus," he called. "Morning." Nia waved. The walk took 12 minutes. Marcus knew because Nia had timed it once with a stopwatch. She asked him questions the whole way. "How do airplanes stay up?" "Lift. The wings are shaped so air moves faster over the top than the bottom. That creates pressure that pushes the plane up. But they're so heavy. The lift is stronger than the weight. If it wasn't, they wouldn't fly." She nodded, processing. "Do you ever wish you could fly?" Marcus looked down at her. "Sometimes. Me too." They reached the school gates. Other kids were filing in, backpacks bouncing, parents saying goodbye. Nia turned to him. "See you at 4? "See you at 4." She hugged him quickly, then ran toward the entrance. Marcus watched until she disappeared inside. Then he walked home alone. The apartment was quiet again. He showered, changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt, and lay down on the couch. Sleep didn't come easy. It never did after a shift. He stared at the ceiling, thought about nothing, thought about everything. At 10:30, he gave up and went for a run. By 8 that night, he was back at LaGuardia. The bookstore sat near the center of Terminal C. Bright lights, racks of paperbacks and magazines, a small coffee station in the corner that hadn't worked in months. Marcus clocked in and tied on his vest. The name tag said Marcus, no last name. "Hey, Marcus." That was Joel, the shift supervisor. Early 20s, always tired. "Hey, quiet night so far. Restock the thrillers when you get a chance. We're low." Marcus nodded. He worked methodically, pulled books from the storage room, arranged them by author, spine out, covers forward for the ones Joel wanted featured. His hands moved with precision, steady, no wasted motion. A woman approached the counter around 11. She held up a book. "Is this one accurate? The medical stuff?" Marcus glanced at the cover, a thriller about a surgeon framed for murder. He'd read the first chapter on a slow night last month. "It's pretty accurate," he said. "The procedures are described well. The timeline's a little rushed, but that's fiction." The woman raised an eyebrow. "You know a lot about surgery?" Marcus shrugged. "I read a lot." She bought the book and left. Joel looked over from the register. "You always know the weirdest stuff." Marcus didn't answer. The shift passed. Travelers came and went. Some bought books, most didn't. Marcus restocked, cleaned, reorganized the magazine rack for the third time that week. By 2 in the morning, the terminal had thinned out. Just a handful of people waiting for red-eye flights. Marcus checked his watch. 5 more hours. He glanced toward the gates. And that's when he saw movement near gate C7. A figure in a wheelchair, alone by the windows. Marcus watched for a moment. Then he went back to stocking shelves. But 15 minutes later, the figure was still there, still alone. Marcus set down the stack of travel magazines and walked toward gate C7. The boy in the wheelchair sat with his back to the terminal. His shoulders were hunched forward. Even from 30 feet away, Marcus could see the way his head dipped down, the way his hands gripped the armrests. Marcus stopped at the edge of the seating area and watched. A couple with rolling luggage passed within 5 feet of the boy. They glanced at him, kept walking. A gate agent walked by with a clipboard. She looked away. Marcus checked his watch. 2:17 in the morning. He went back to the bookstore, restocked the mystery section, straightened the greeting cards no one ever bought. 5 minutes passed. When he looked again, the boy was still there. Same position, same hunched shoulders. Marcus wiped his hands on his vest and crossed the terminal. The boy was 17, maybe 18, white, pale, with dark hair that fell across his forehead. His eyes were red and swollen. His cheeks were wet. Marcus crouched down slowly, the way he used to with patients in the ER when he needed them to focus on his face instead of their fear. "You okay?" he asked quietly. The boy looked at him. His breath hitched. He nodded. Marcus didn't move. "You sure?" The boy's jaw trembled. He nodded again. Marcus glanced around the terminal. A dozen people within earshot. A gate agent at the desk 20 feet away. Travelers dragging suitcases toward baggage claim. No one stopping. He looked back at the boy and spoke louder, clear enough for others to hear. "Where's your family? Why are you sitting here all by yourself?" The question hung in the air. Passengers nearby turned. The gate agent looked up from her computer. The boy's face crumpled. His breath came in short gasps. "My dad's assistant was supposed to meet me." "When?" 2 hours ago." Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked at the gate agent, at the travelers slowing down to listen, at the woman in a business suit standing near the window with her phone in her hand. "Someone left this kid here for 2 hours?" Marcus said. His voice carried across the terminal. "Who does that?" The gate agent shifted uncomfortably. A man in a Yankees cap muttered something to his wife. The woman near the window said, "That's terrible." Marcus turned back to the boy. "What's your name?" "Evan." "I'm Marcus." He gestured toward the wheelchair. "You just get in from somewhere?" Evan nodded. "Colorado. There's a rehab center there. For people like me." Your phone work? Evan shook his head. It died on the plane. I don't have a charger. Marcus pulled his own phone from his pocket. Here, call whoever you need. Evan took the phone with shaking hands. He dialed. Waited. His face fell. Voicemail. Try again. Evan did. Same result. Marcus stood and looked at the gate agent. Can you call airport services? Get this kid some help. The agent hesitated. I can try, but it's late. There's not much. Just try. She picked up her desk phone. Marcus looked back at Evan. You been sitting here the whole 2 hours? Yeah. You eat anything? No. Marcus walked to a vending machine near the restrooms. He bought a bottle of water and a pack of crackers. When he came back, Evan was staring at the phone in his lap like it might ring if he concentrated hard enough. Marcus handed him the water. Drink this. Evan opened the bottle and drank. His hands were still shaking. Marcus sat down on the floor beside the wheelchair. His knees cracked. The tile was cold and hard. Where do you go to school? Marcus asked. Dalton, in Manhattan. What year? Senior. You like it? Evan shrugged. It's school. Marcus opened the crackers and handed them over. You got a favorite subject? History, I guess. Yeah? What kind? World War II, the Pacific Theater. Marcus nodded. That's good stuff. You read about Midway? Evan's eyes brightened slightly. Yeah, the code breakers. That's my favorite part. Mine too. They talked, quietly, about school and books and the rehab center in Colorado. Evan's voice was soft, hesitant at first, but it steadied as the minutes passed. Marcus asked about physical therapy. Evan asked if Marcus had kids. Marcus told him about Nia, about her science project on evaporation, about the questions she asked that didn't have easy answers. Evan almost smiled. She sounds smart. She is. The terminal thinned out. The gate agent finished her shift and left. A maintenance worker pushed a floor buffer past them. The hum echoed off the high ceilings. Marcus checked his phone. 3:30. You cold? He asked. A little. Marcus stood and walked to the bookstore. He grabbed his jacket from the back room and brought it to Evan. Here. You don't have to. Take it. Evan draped it over his lap. Marcus sat back down on the floor. His back ached. His feet throbbed. But he didn't move. Why are you helping me? Evan asked quietly. Marcus looked at him. Because you needed help. You don't know me. Doesn't matter. Evan's eyes filled again. My dad's going to be mad when he gets here. Why? Because I made someone wait with me. Because I couldn't handle it myself. Marcus said nothing, but his hands, resting on his knees, curled into fists. A few more minutes passed. Then Evan's face changed. His eyes shifted past Marcus toward the terminal entrance. His whole body went rigid. That's my dad, he whispered. Marcus turned. A man in an expensive suit was striding through the terminal. Silver hair, sharp features, two people in business clothes flanking him. Behind them, a man in a dark jacket with an earpiece. Security. The man's eyes locked on Evan, then on Marcus, and something in his expression twisted. Marcus stood slowly. His knees protested. He'd been sitting on the floor for over an hour. Jeffrey Harrington cut through the small crowd like a blade. His suit was charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. His silver hair was swept back. Two assistants flanked him, both young, both carrying tablets. Behind them, a man in a dark suit with an earpiece. Private security. A woman in a blazer followed close behind. A lawyer by the look of her. Jeffrey's eyes locked on Evan first, then on Marcus. His expression shifted. Confusion. Then something harder. What's going on here? His voice filled the terminal. Who are you? Marcus kept his hands at his sides. Visible. Calm. I'm Marcus. Your son was alone. I stayed with him. Jeffrey's gaze swept the area. The gate agent. The travelers who'd stopped to watch. The woman near the window with her phone out. His jaw tightened. You had no right to approach my son. Jeffrey stepped closer. Were you bothering him? Dad, no. Evan started. Jeffrey raised a hand. Evan went silent. Marcus said nothing. He didn't move. Were you making him uncomfortable? Jeffrey's voice was louder now, performing for the crowd. Did you touch him? I helped him, Marcus said quietly. I didn't ask for your help. Did he ask for your help? He needed it. Jeffrey's face flushed. You don't get to decide what my son needs. You're a... He looked at Marcus's vest, at the name tag. A bookstore worker. You stock shelves. That doesn't give you authority over my child. Evan's voice broke through. Dad, he didn't do anything wrong. Jeffrey ignored him. His eyes stayed on Marcus. How long were you with him? About an hour. An hour, alone with my son. There were people around the whole time. That's not the point. Jeffrey's voice sharpened. You don't touch someone's child. You don't approach them. You don't sit with them. People like you don't get to... He stopped himself, but the words hung in the air. The crowd had grown. 15, maybe 20 people now. A few phones were out, recording. Marcus's hands stayed at his sides. His breathing stayed even. A woman stepped forward from the direction of the bookstore. She was in her 50s, black, with short natural hair and an airport ID badge clipped to her belt. Lorraine Mitchell, the terminal manager. Sir, she said firmly, this employee helped your son when no one else did. Your son was alone for 2 hours. Marcus stayed with him. He didn't do anything wrong. Jeffrey turned on her. I'll decide what's wrong. I'll decide what happens here. You weren't here, Lorraine said. Excuse me? Your son needed someone. Marcus was here. You weren't. Jeffrey's face went red. How dare you? The lawyer stepped forward. A woman in her 40s, severe, efficient. She leaned close to Jeffrey and whispered something. Jeffrey pulled out his phone, dialed, waited. This is Jeffrey Harrington, he said into the phone. His voice was clipped, controlled. I'm at LaGuardia Terminal C. I need security to gate C7 immediately. There's been an incident involving my son and one of your employees. Yes, now. He ended the call. Marcus still hadn't moved, but something in his eyes had changed. A coldness, a distance. Evan was crying now, quiet, shaking sobs. Dad, stop, he whispered. Please stop. Jeffrey didn't look at him. 2 airport security officers arrived within 3 minutes. A man and a woman, both in uniform. They looked at the crowd, at Jeffrey, at Marcus. The lawyer spoke to them quietly, handed them a business card. One of the officers, the man, approached Marcus. Sir, we need you to come with us. Marcus nodded. Okay. You don't have to make a scene, the officer said. Just walk with us. I'm not making a scene. The officer gestured toward the terminal exit. Marcus started walking. Lorraine stepped forward. This is wrong. He didn't do anything. The lawyer turned to her. This is a private matter. If you interfere, we'll escalate. To who? Airport administration, corporate, whoever needs to hear that one of your employees harassed a passenger. That's not what happened. That's what Mr. Harrington will say happened. Lorraine's hands curled into fists, but she stepped back. Marcus walked between the 2 officers. Calm, controlled. His shoulders were square. His head was up. The crowd murmured. Someone muttered something about calling the police. Someone else said it wasn't fair. Jeffrey stood beside his son's wheelchair. His hand rested on the handle, but he wasn't looking at Evan. Evan's voice broke through the noise, small, cracking. Dad, why did you leave me alone? The terminal went quiet. Jeffrey's hand tightened on the wheelchair. His mouth opened, closed. No words came. Evan's face was wet with tears. You left me here for 2 hours, and he stayed. Jeffrey's jaw worked. He looked at the lawyer, at the crowd, at the phone still recording. We're leaving, he said. His voice was flat. He pushed the wheelchair toward the exit. The assistants followed. The security guard followed. The lawyer followed. Evan looked back over his shoulder, at Marcus, disappearing around the corner, at the people still watching, at the gate agent who'd turned away, at the woman with the phone who was already typing. Lorraine stood alone near the windows. She watched Jeffrey and his entourage leave. Then she turned toward the direction Marcus had been taken. Her face was stone, but her eyes burned. 3 days after the airport confrontation, Jeffrey Harrington sat in his corner office on the 42nd floor of a glass tower in Midtown Manhattan. The city sprawled below him, small and manageable. He picked up his phone and dialed. Richard, it's Jeffrey Harrington. Yes, good to hear your voice too. Listen, I need a favor. The conversation lasted 4 minutes. When it ended, Jeffrey made another call, then another. By noon, 3 members of the Port Authority Board had received calls from influential friends. Each call mentioned the same concern: an airport employee who'd overstepped with a passenger, a liability issue, something that needed handling. Jeffrey's PR firm was already at work. They didn't lie. They didn't need to. They seeded questions, framed situations, made people wonder. A carefully worded email went to airport security suggesting they review recent incident reports involving Terminal C staff. An anonymous tip mentioned an employee who'd been seen spending unusual amounts of time with unaccompanied minors. The language was vague. The implications were clear. By the end of the day, Lorraine's phone was ringing. The first call came from her district manager. Professional. Apologetic. Could she come in tomorrow to discuss the incident from Wednesday night? The second call came an hour later. Less apologetic. Corporate wanted a statement. They wanted to know why the employee in question was still on duty. Lorraine sat at her desk in the airport office. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Her coffee had gone cold. "He didn't do anything wrong," she said into the phone. "That's not what we're hearing." "Then you're hearing wrong. I was there. I watched the whole thing. We have concerns, multiple concerns." "From who?" A pause. "I'm not at liberty to say." "This is Jeffrey Harrington, isn't it? He's making calls." "Ms. Mitchell, this isn't about—" "It's exactly about that. His son was alone for 2 hours. Marcus helped. Harrington didn't like being embarrassed in front of witnesses. We need you to cooperate with the investigation." "What investigation?" "There's nothing to investigate." "Then you won't mind if we place the employee on administrative leave pending review." Lorraine's jaw tightened. "I do mind. And if you push this, I'll release the security footage. The whole encounter. Let people see what actually happened." The voice on the other end went cold. "That would be unwise." "So would firing a good employee because a billionaire made a phone call?" "We'll be in touch." The line went dead. Lorraine called Marcus that night, told him not to come in for his next shift, told him it wasn't personal, told him she was fighting it. Marcus listened, said he understood, hung up. He stood in his apartment, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Nia was at the kitchen table doing homework. She looked up. "You okay, Dad?" "Yeah, baby. I'm fine." But he wasn't fine. Over the next 2 days, he checked his phone every 10 minutes, waited for calls that didn't come, tried to sleep and couldn't. He stayed home during the day, paced the apartment, made breakfast, made lunch, tried to read and gave up after the same page 3 times. Nia noticed. On the 3rd day, she came home from school and found him sitting on the couch, staring at his phone. She dropped her backpack by the door, walked over, sat beside him. "Dad?" He looked at her. "Hey, how was school?" "Fine, why are you home?" "I told you, I'm on a break." "You said that yesterday. And the day before?" Marcus set his phone down. "It's just temporary." "Are you in trouble?" "No." "Then why do you look sad?" Marcus's throat tightened. He looked at his daughter. Her soft curls framed her face. Her eyes, so much like Simone's, watched him with concern no 9-year-old should have to carry. He got off the couch and knelt down in front of her, eye level, the way he used to with patience. "I'm not in trouble," he said quietly. "But someone's trying to make it look like I am." "Why?" "Because I helped someone, and it made another person feel bad." Nia's brow furrowed. "That doesn't make sense." "I know. If you help someone, that's good. It should be. So why are people being mean to you?" Marcus took a breath. He could lie, soften it, protect her from the truth. But she deserved better than that. "Because they think kindness is weakness," he said. "Because they're afraid of people who see them clearly." Nia stared at him. "What does that mean?" Marcus touched her hand. "It means some people don't like it when you notice things they're trying to hide." "Like what?" "Like the fact that they're not as strong as they pretend to be." Nia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Is that why you're always nice to everyone? Even when they're mean?" Marcus's chest ached. "Yeah, baby. That's why. Mom was like that too, wasn't she?" He nodded, couldn't speak. Nia squeezed his hand. "I think you did the right thing." Marcus pulled her into a hug. held her tight, let himself believe just for a moment that doing the right thing would be enough. That night after Nia was asleep, Marcus sat in the dark living room and checked his phone one more time. No missed calls, no voicemails. He set the phone down and closed his eyes. Across the city, in a penthouse on the Upper East Side, Evan Harrington sat in his wheelchair near his father's study. The door was cracked open. Jeffrey's voice drifted out. "I don't care how you frame it. I want it clear that the employee acted inappropriately. Make it a pattern of behavior issue. Make it a judgment concern." A pause. "No, don't put anything in writing. Just have the right people ask the right questions." Another pause. "Good. And make sure airport management understands this isn't going away until it's handled." Evan's hands gripped the armrests of his wheelchair. His father's voice continued. "I'm not paying you to give me options. I'm paying you to solve problems. This man is a problem. Make him go away." The call ended. Evan heard his father pour a drink, ice clinking against glass. He backed his wheelchair away from the door. Quiet, careful. His face was stone, but his eyes burned. 1 week after the airport incident, Evan Harrington sat in his bedroom, staring at his laptop screen. The penthouse was silent. His father was at the office. The nurse his father hired checked in every 2 hours, but otherwise left him alone. Evan typed into the search bar, Marcus Webb LaGuardia Airport. The results were sparse. A brief mention in an airport employee directory, a LinkedIn profile with no photo and minimal information. Employment start date, 2017. Current position, retail associate, nothing else. No social media, no news articles, no digital footprint beyond a name and a job. Evan sat back in his wheelchair. His fingers drummed against the armrest. He thought about the man who'd sat on the floor beside him for an hour. The steady hands, the calm voice, the way he'd looked at the crowd and asked why no one else had stopped. Evan picked up his phone and opened a car service app. 30 minutes later, he was in the back of a black sedan heading toward LaGuardia. The driver asked if he needed help getting out. Evan said no. He'd done this before. The wheelchair folded, unfolded, locked into place. Routine. He wheeled himself through the automatic doors into Terminal C. The bookstore was near Gate B12, small, bright lights, racks of magazines and paperbacks. A coffee station that looked broken. Marcus was there. He stood near the back wall, restocking travel guides. He wore the same vest as before, the same name tag. Evan rolled forward. His wheels squeaked on the polished floor. Marcus looked up. His face didn't change. No surprise. No recognition at first. Then something shifted in his eyes. "Hi," Evan said. Marcus set down the books in his hands. "Hi. I'm Evan. We met last week." "I remember." Evan's throat tightened. "I wanted to apologize for what my dad did." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You don't need to apologize for him. He was wrong. I know." Evan looked down at his hands. They were shaking slightly. "You didn't deserve that. What he said, what he did." Marcus stepped closer. His voice was soft. "It's okay. It's not okay. No, but it's done." Evan looked up. Marcus's face was calm. Not angry, not hurt, just steady. "Why did you help me?" Evan asked. The question came out sharper than he meant it to. "You didn't know me." Marcus's jaw tightened. He glanced toward the front of the store where 2 co-workers were talking near the register. "Because you needed help," Marcus said quietly. "That's not an answer." Marcus looked at him for a long moment. His dark brown eyes held something Evan couldn't name. Something heavy. "Because I know what it feels like," Marcus said finally, "when the people who are supposed to protect you aren't there." Evan's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Marcus shook his head. "I need to get back to work." "Wait." Evan rolled forward slightly. "Please, I just want to understand." "There's nothing to understand. You sat with me for an hour. You didn't have to do that." "No, I didn't." "So why?" Marcus picked up the stack of books again. His hands, scarred across the knuckles, moved with precision. "Because it was the right thing to do." Evan watched him work. The careful placement of each book, the steady rhythm. "Do you have kids?" Evan asked. Marcus paused. His shoulders shifted slightly. "Yeah." "How old?" "9." "What's her name?" "Nia." Marcus's voice changed when he said it. Softer, warmer. She's lucky, Evan said quietly. Marcus looked at him. Why do you say that? Because you're the kind of person who sits on the floor with strangers, who asks why someone's alone when everyone else just walks past. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes flickered. What did you do before this? Evan asked. Before the bookstore. Different work. What kind? It doesn't matter. It does to me. Marcus set the books down again. He turned to face Evan fully. Why are you here? I told you to apologize. You did that. Now what? Evan's hands gripped the armrests. I want to know why my father's trying to ruin your life. Marcus's face went still. He's not. He is. I heard him on the phone. He's making calls, spreading lies about you. That's between him and me. No, it's not. It's about me. You helped me, and he's punishing you for it. Marcus took a slow breath. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. No. Marcus's voice was firmer now, not loud but steady. Final. You need to let this go. I can't. You can. And you should. Marcus looked toward the front of the store again. I appreciate you coming here, but you need to leave now. Evan's chest tightened. I just want to help. You can't. Why not? Marcus's jaw worked. He looked at Evan with something that might have been pity, or maybe just exhaustion. Because some things can't be fixed by wanting them to be, he said quietly. He picked up the books and walked toward another shelf. The conversation was over. Evan sat there for another minute, watching Marcus work, watching the way his hands moved, the way his shoulders stayed level even though everything about him seemed heavy. Finally, Evan turned his wheelchair and rolled toward the exit. The ride back to Manhattan was silent. He stared out the window at the city blurring past. Different work, Marcus had said. But what kind of work leaves scars like that on a person's hands? What kind of work makes someone move with that much precision? That night, alone in his room, Evan opened his laptop again. He typed slowly, carefully. Marcus Webb plus medical plus New York. He hit enter. The screen loaded, and Evan's breath stopped. The first result was a PDF medical journal. 2015. Evan clicked. The page loaded slowly. Then an image appeared. A photograph of a man in surgical scrubs standing on a conference stage. Behind him, a banner. Annual Trauma Surgery Conference, New York. The man was younger, his hair darker. No gray at the temples, but the face was the same. The eyes, the steady hands holding a crystal award. Dr. Marcus Webb, the caption read. Recipient of the Thoracic Surgery Innovation Award. Evan's hands trembled on the keyboard. He scrolled down. The article was dense, technical, but certain phrases jumped out. Pioneer of the Webb protocol. Revolutionary approach to cardiac trauma. Reduced mortality rates by 40%. Once-in-a-generation talent. Evan clicked another link. A profile from a medical magazine. More photos. Marcus in an operating room. Marcus with colleagues. Marcus shaking hands with someone important whose name Evan didn't recognize. The article called him brilliant, dedicated, compassionate. There was a quote. Dr. Webb sees patients, not cases. He treats people, not problems. That's what makes him extraordinary. Evan kept searching. Article after article, award after award, conference presentations, published research, a career that blazed bright and steady. Until 2016, then nothing. No new publications, no conference appearances. The trail went cold. Evan typed a new search. Simone Webb, Nurse, New York. An obituary appeared. Short, simple. Simone Webb, age 36, beloved wife and mother, passed away unexpectedly. She is survived by her husband, Dr. Marcus Webb, and daughter Nia. The date was April 2016. Evan sat back, his throat tight. Marcus had walked away. From everything. From a career that people spent lifetimes building. From patients who needed him. From a gift that could save lives. Because his wife died, and now he stocked shelves at an airport. Evan's chest ached. He looked at the photo again. Marcus on that stage. Proud. Present. Whole. Not the quiet, careful man who'd sat on the floor beside a stranger's wheelchair. Evan grabbed his phone, took screenshots, saved the articles. Then he wheeled himself out of his room. The penthouse was dark except for the light coming from his father's study. Jeffrey was still working. He always was. Evan stopped outside the door, listened. His father's voice, low and measured, talking on the phone. Business, always business. Evan waited until the call ended. Then he knocked. "Come in." Jeffrey sat behind his desk. The city lights sprawled behind him through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He looked up, irritated. "It's late, Evan. What do you need?" Evan rolled forward. He held up his phone. "I found something about Marcus Webb." Jeffrey's expression didn't change. "I told you to drop that." "He's a doctor, was a doctor, a trauma surgeon." Jeffrey's jaw tightened. So you're trying to destroy a man who saved lives. Hundreds of lives. That's an exaggeration. It's not. Evan turned his phone around, showed his father the photo. "Look." Jeffrey glanced at the screen. His face stayed flat. "Lots of people share names. It's him, same face, same age, same everything." "You don't know that." "I do. And so do you." Jeffrey set down his pen. His hands rested on the desk, perfectly still. But Evan saw it, the slight tremor in his fingers. "Even if it is him," Jeffrey said slowly, "it doesn't change anything. It changes everything." "No, it doesn't. He's a bookstore employee now, not a doctor. Whatever he was before is irrelevant." Evan's voice rose. "He pioneered a technique that's used in hospitals all over the world. He saved people. And you're trying to ruin him because he helped me when you weren't there." Jeffrey stood. His chair scraped against the floor. "That's enough." "It's not enough. You owe him an apology." "I owe him nothing." "He walked away from medicine after his wife died. Did you know that?" Jeffrey's face went still. "She was a nurse," Evan continued. "She died in a hospital, and he couldn't save her. So he left, and now he's just trying to get by. And you're making his life hell. You don't know what you're talking about." "I know you're scared." Jeffrey's eyes flashed. "Watch yourself. You're scared people will see what I saw, that you left me alone, that you cared more about your meeting than your own son. I was working. I provide for you, for this family. You weren't there." The words hung between them. Jeffrey's hands curled into fists. "This conversation is over. He's a good man, Dad, and you're destroying him. He's handling it fine." "How do you know?" "Because people like him always do. They survive. They move on." "Is that what you tell yourself?" Jeffrey's voice dropped, cold, final. "Go to bed, Evan." "Dad, now." Evan stared at his father, at the man who looked so strong standing there in his expensive suit, at the man whose hands were shaking. He turned his wheelchair and left. Back in his room, Evan sat in the dark. The city lights filtered through his window, distant, cold. He looked at the photo of Marcus on his phone, the man on the stage with the award, the man who'd given it all up, and the man who'd sat on a cold airport floor to keep a stranger company. Evan made a decision. He would go back to the airport, he would find Marcus, and he would apologize, publicly, in front of whoever was there, the way his father should have. He didn't tell his father, didn't ask permission. 2 weeks, he thought. He'd give it 2 weeks to plan, to make sure he could get there on his own, to find the right words, but he would do it, because someone had to make this right. 2 weeks had passed since Evan found the articles. He sat in his wheelchair near Gate B12, 50 feet from the airport bookstore. The terminal smelled like coffee and jet fuel. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the tall windows. Marcus's shift started at 3. It was 2:45. Evan had planned this carefully, ordered the car service, told the nurse he was visiting a friend, left his phone on so his father could track him if he wanted to. He didn't care anymore. At 2:58, Marcus walked through the terminal entrance. He wore the same vest, the same quiet expression. He moved through the crowd like water, invisible to everyone rushing past. Evan's chest tightened. He wheeled forward. Marcus reached the bookstore. Clocked in, tied on his name tag. Evan rolled closer. His hands were shaking on the armrest. Marcus turned, saw him. His face didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Evan opened his mouth to speak, then his chest exploded. Pain, sharp, crushing, like someone had driven a spike through his ribs into his lung. He couldn't breathe, couldn't pull air. His vision blurred. The wheelchair tilted, or maybe the floor did. He couldn't tell. He heard his own voice, distant, gasping, then nothing. Marcus saw Evan's face go white, saw his body pitch forward, saw the wheelchair tip. He ran. 10 years of forced stillness shattered in an instant. His legs moved before his mind caught up. He crossed the terminal in seconds, dropped to his knees, caught Evan before his head hit the floor. Evan's eyes were open but unfocused. His lips were blue. His breathing was rapid and shallow. Marcus's hands moved on their own, checking pulse, checking airway, assessing, weak radial pulse, tachycardic, respiratory distress, unilateral chest pain, pulmonary embolism. The diagnosis came instantly, automatic, the way it used to. "Call 911, Marcus said. His voice was different, deeper, authoritative. "Tell them we have a 17-year-old male, suspected PE. We need a hospital with a cath lab, now." A woman nearby fumbled for her phone. Marcus lowered Evan to the floor, positioned him carefully, elevated his legs with a folded jacket someone handed him. "I need the first aid kit," he said. "The big one. Terminal Services keeps it near Gate C." An airport employee ran. Marcus kept his hands on Evan's wrist, monitoring pulse, his other hand on Evan's chest, feeling for breath sounds. Evan's eyes found his, scared, confused. "Stay with me," Marcus said quietly. "I've got you." The first aid kit arrived. Marcus tore it open. His hands moved with absolute precision, pulling supplies, improvising. He couldn't give anticoagulants, couldn't do a CT, but he could stabilize. He could buy time. He positioned Evan's airway, made sure nothing was blocked, checked for signs of cardiac arrest. Pulse still there. Weak, but there. A crowd had gathered. Travelers, staff, phones out, watching. Marcus didn't see them, didn't hear them. There was only Evan. Only the assessment. Only the next 30 seconds and the 30 seconds after that. A woman in scrubs pushed through the crowd. Asian, early 40s, hospital ID badge still clipped to her belt. She stared at Marcus. Her eyes went wide. "Oh my God," she whispered. Marcus glanced at her. "I need you to monitor his breathing. Count respirations. Tell me if it drops below 10 or goes above 30. The woman knelt beside him. Her hands were shaking. "That's Dr. Webb. I saw him speak at a trauma conference in 2015. He pioneered the Webb protocol." Marcus didn't respond. He was checking Evan's skin. Cyanosis spreading. Oxygen deprivation. The woman kept staring. "You're Dr. Marcus Webb." "Right now I'm trying to keep this kid alive," Marcus said. "Respirations." She blinked. Focused. 28, 29. "Good, keep counting." Another voice from the crowd. Younger. Male. "Wait, the bookstore guy is a doctor?" Marcus ignored him. His hands moved across Evan's chest. Gentle, methodical, checking for secondary complications. Evan's eyes were still open, still focused on Marcus's face. "You're going to be okay," Marcus said. His voice was steady, calm, the voice that had talked hundreds of patients through fear. "The ambulance is coming. They'll take you to a hospital. You'll be fine." Evan's lips moved. No sound came out. "Don't talk," Marcus said. "Just breathe. Slow and steady. In through your nose, out through your mouth." Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. The woman in scrubs was still staring at Marcus. "I can't believe it's you. I use the Webb protocol every week. You saved my career. You taught me how to think under pressure." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Not now. But you disappeared. Everyone wondered." "Not now." She went quiet. The paramedics arrived. 2 of them. A man and a woman. They moved fast. Professional. Marcus gave them the rundown. 17-year-old male. Suspected PE. Onset 3 minutes ago. Current vitals. Treatment administered. They listened, nodded. loaded Evan onto a gurney. Evan's hand reached out, grabbed Marcus's wrist. His grip was weak but desperate. Marcus leaned down. "You're going to be fine." Evan's voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you." Marcus nodded, stepped back. The paramedics lifted the gurney, started moving toward the ambulance bay. Marcus stood in the middle of the terminal. His hands were still steady. His breathing was still controlled. But something in his chest had cracked open. The crowd was still watching, phones still recording. The woman in scrubs stepped forward. "Doctor, Webb, it's Marcus," he said quietly. "Just Marcus." She shook her head. "No, it's not." A voice from the crowd. "Someone get that on video. The bookstore guy just saved that kid's life." Another voice. "He's a doctor? A real doctor?" Marcus looked down at his hands, the scars across his knuckles, the hands that had held Simone's face when she died. The hands he'd hidden for 8 years. They were shaking now. The woman in scrubs was typing on her phone. Fast, urgent. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked. "Telling people. Doctors I know. Surgeons. They need to know you're alive. Don't. Too late." She looked up at him. Her eyes were wet. "Dr. Webb, you just saved that boy using nothing but a first aid kit and muscle memory. That's not something you walk away from again." Marcus didn't answer. Someone in the crowd was already posting. He could see it. Phones tilted. Fingers moving. The video spreading. The paramedics were gone. The sirens fading. But the crowd wasn't leaving. And Marcus knew, standing there in his bookstore vest with his name tag crooked, that everything he'd buried for 8 years had just clawed its way back to the surface. The paramedics had Evan strapped to the gurney, oxygen mask over his face, IV line already in. One of them was talking to him, keeping him calm. Marcus stood 10 feet away. His hands were smeared with blood from the first aid kit. His vest was crooked. His name tag hung sideways. The crowd had grown. 40 people, maybe more. Phones out, recording. Dr. Sarah Chen was still beside him. She kept looking at him like she couldn't believe he was real. Then the crowd parted. Jeffrey Harrington came through like a storm. His suit was perfect. His hair was perfect. His face was pale. He saw the gurney first. His son, strapped down, oxygen mask, paramedics. His legs almost gave out. "Evan!" He rushed forward, grabbed the side of the gurney. His hands were shaking. "What happened? What's wrong with him?" The female paramedic looked up, professional, calm. "Your son had a pulmonary embolism. He's stable now. We're taking him to Mount Sinai." "A what?" He's okay. He's stable. Someone here performed emergency intervention. Probably saved his life." Jeffrey's breath came in short gasps. "Who? Who did that?" The paramedic pointed. Jeffrey turned. Marcus stood there. Tall, lean, dark brown skin, graying hair, bookstore vest, blood on his hands. The man Jeffrey had tried to destroy. Jeffrey's mouth opened. No sound came out. Dr. Chen stepped forward. Her voice carried across the terminal. "That's Dr. Marcus Webb. He pioneered a trauma protocol that's used in hospitals all over the world." A murmur ran through the crowd. Someone said, "Wait, the bookstore guy is a doctor?" Another voice, "He's a surgeon?" Jeffrey stared at Marcus, his face drained of color. Marcus said nothing. He didn't move, didn't look away. Just stood there with blood on his hands and 8 years of silence written across his face. Evan's voice cut through the noise. Weak, shaking, but clear. "He asked why I was alone, Dad." Jeffrey turned, looked at his son. Evan was staring at him, not Marcus, him. 2 weeks ago, Evan said. His voice broke. "He asked why I was alone, and you never answered." The terminal went quiet. Phones were still up, still recording. Dozens of them, capturing this moment, this reversal. Jeffrey's hands gripped the gurney rail. "Evan, you left me there, and when he helped me, you called him a nobody." Jeffrey's jaw worked. He looked around, at the crowd, at the phones, at the witnesses. His lawyer appeared at his elbow, a different one than before, younger, sharper. She leaned close and whispered urgently. Jeffrey shook his head. "Not now. Sir, we need to... Not now. The paramedics started moving the gurney toward the exit. Jeffrey walked alongside. His hand stayed on the rail. Evan looked back at Marcus. Thank you. Marcus nodded once. The paramedics rolled Evan through the automatic doors. Jeffrey followed. Then the assistants, then the lawyer. The crowd stayed behind. Marcus stood in the middle of them. Silent, still. Lorraine pushed through. She looked at him. Her eyes were bright. You're cleared, she said quietly. Corporate just called. They're dropping the investigation. You can come back to work whenever you're ready. Marcus didn't respond. Did you hear me? Lorraine asked. I heard you. Are you okay? Marcus looked down at his hands. The blood, the scars, the hands that had held human hearts and then spent 8 years hiding. I don't know, he said. Dr. Chen was talking to someone on her phone. Fast, urgent. She hung up and turned to Marcus. I just called 3 colleagues, she said. Trauma surgeons. They're going to want to talk to you. I'm not interested. Dr. Webb, it's Marcus. She shook her head. You just saved that boy with a first aid kit and muscle memory. You can't walk away from that again. Marcus met her eyes. Watch me. He turned and walked toward the bookstore. The crowd watched him go. Phones still recording. Someone was already posting. Someone else was typing frantically. By the time Marcus reached the back room, his phone was buzzing. He pulled it out. Notifications flooding in. Twitter mentions. Facebook tags. A text from a number he didn't recognize. He turned the phone off, set it on the shelf, took off his vest. His shift didn't start for another hour, but he couldn't stay here. Not with the crowd outside, not with the phones, not with Dr. Chen looking at him like he was supposed to be something he wasn't anymore. He grabbed his jacket and walked out the back exit. The afternoon sun was bright. The air was warm. He could hear the planes overhead, the constant hum of the airport. He started walking. By the time he reached the subway station, the video had been viewed 10,000 times. By the time he got home to Brooklyn, it was 50,000. By the time Nia got home from school, it was 200,000. And by midnight, the hashtag was trending. Airport hero. Marcus Webb didn't see any of it. He sat in his dark living room with his phone still off and his hands still shaking and the weight of 8 years pressing down on his chest. He'd saved Evan's life. And in doing so, he'd exposed the one thing he'd spent nearly a decade trying to bury, who he used to be. 1 week later, a lawyer delivered a letter to Marcus's apartment. The envelope was heavy, expensive paper, a law firm's name embossed in gold. Marcus opened it, standing by his kitchen window. Morning light filtered through thin curtains. The letter was 3 pages. Legal language. Threats wrapped in professional courtesy. Jeffrey Harrington's attorneys were demanding Marcus issue a public statement clarifying that he had misrepresented his credentials as a medical professional while employed in a retail capacity. They claimed his actions at the airport constituted fraud, defamation, misuse of professional status. They gave him 72 hours to comply. Marcus set the letter down. His hands were steady. The video had 12 million views now. Comments flooded in by the thousands. Former patients, colleagues, trauma surgeons from across the country defending him. Someone had posted a clip from a 2014 conference where Marcus explained the Webb protocol. The clip had gone viral too. Jeffrey was losing control of the narrative. This letter was desperation. Marcus's phone buzzed. Lorraine. Did you get it? She asked. Yeah. Don't respond. Don't do anything. I'm handling it. Lorraine. I leaked the security footage from 2 weeks ago, the original encounter. It's already on 3 news sites. Let them try to paint you as the bad guy now. Marcus closed his eyes. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. The call ended. By that afternoon, Jeffrey's PR strategy had collapsed. The security footage showed everything. The empty terminal. Evan alone. Marcus asking why. Jeffrey's rage. The escort. Evan's question that Jeffrey never answered. The contrast was stark, undeniable. 2 weeks later, Dr. Sarah Chen knocked on Marcus's apartment door. It was a Saturday morning. Marcus was making breakfast. Nia was at the table doing homework. He opened the door. Dr. Chen stood in the hallway. She looked nervous. I'm sorry to show up unannounced, she said. Can we talk? Marcus stepped aside. Let her in. Nia looked up. Hi. Hi, Dr. Chen said. She smiled. You must be Nia. Yeah. Are you a doctor? I'm a nurse. My dad's a doctor. Dr. Chen glanced at Marcus. I know. Marcus gestured toward the couch. Dr. Chen sat. Marcus stayed standing. There's a community clinic in Brooklyn, Dr. Chen said. We train medical students, residents, people who want to learn trauma care but can't afford the fancy programs. We need teachers. Marcus shook his head. I'm not interested. You haven't heard the offer. I don't need to. 2 days a week, 4 hours each day. You teach the web protocol, hands-on training. The students need someone who's actually done it. I'm sure you can find someone else. We want you. Marcus looked at Nia. She was watching him. Her soft curls framed her face. Her eyes, so much like Simone's, held something he couldn't name. I'll think about it, he said. Dr. Chen nodded. She stood, handed him a card. Call me when you decide. After she left, Nia set down her pencil. Is that what you used to do? She asked. Teach doctors? No, I was a surgeon. What's the difference? Surgeons operate, teachers teach. But you could do both, right? Marcus sat down across from her. Why are you asking? Nia looked at her homework, then back at him. Because you've been different since the airport. You're not as sad. Marcus's throat tightened. I'm not sad, baby. You are. You have been since Mom died. But when you help that boy, you look like you again. Like me? Like the dad in the pictures. The ones before? Marcus couldn't speak. Nia reached across the table, touched his hand. Mom would want you to help people. 3 months later, Marcus walked into the Brooklyn Community Clinic for his first shift. The clinic was small, bright, clean but worn. Students waited in the training room. 6 of them. Young. Eager. Dr. Chen introduced him. This is Dr. Marcus Webb. He's going to teach you how to save lives when you don't have time to think. Marcus stood in front of them. His hands, scarred and steady, rested at his sides. He taught them the Webb protocol, step by step. Why it worked, where it failed, when to use it, when to move on. The students watched him like he was speaking a language they'd been waiting their whole lives to learn. By the end of the session, Marcus's chest didn't feel as tight. 6 months after the airport, Marcus stood at Simone's grave. The cemetery was quiet. Spring had turned the grass green. Trees were blooming. He crouched down, touched the headstone. I'm teaching again, he said quietly. Just part-time. But it's something. The wind moved through the branches overhead. I couldn't save you, he said. I've spent 8 years trying to live with that. I'm learning now. Learning that hiding wasn't the answer. That you'd want me to keep going. He stayed there for a long time. When he stood, his hands were shaking, but not from fear. That same week, Evan Harrington sent Marcus a message through Dr. Chen. They met at a coffee shop in Manhattan. Evan wheeled himself in. He looked different, lighter somehow. I moved out, Evan said. I'm in a group home now, with other people my age, people who get it. How is it? Better. I'm starting college in the fall. Social work. Marcus nodded. That's good. I wanted to thank you, not just for saving my life, for asking the question, the one no one else asked. You don't need to thank me. I do. Because of you, I finally asked it myself. Why was I alone? And when I couldn't answer it, I left. They talked for an hour, about Evan's plans, about the group home, about the distance between who his father wanted him to be and who he actually was. When Evan left, he shook Marcus's hand. You're a good man, Evan said. Marcus didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. One Sunday in late spring, Marcus and Nia took the subway to Prospect Park. They walked along the path they'd walked 100 times before. The trees were full. The air was warm. Families spread blankets on the grass. Nia stopped near the lake. Watched the ducks. Dad, she said. Yeah? Are you happy? Marcus looked at her, at his daughter, at the girl who carried Simone's smile in his quiet strength. I'm getting there, he said. She took his hand. They kept walking. A week later, Marcus stood in the clinic training room. A new group of students sat in front of him. A young woman raised her hand. Dr. Webb, the protocol you're teaching us. Why is it called the Webb protocol? Marcus paused. His hands, scarred and steady, rested on the table in front of him. For 8 years, he'd hidden those hands. Hidden what they could do. Hidden who he'd been. Not anymore. It's named after someone I loved, he said quietly. The student waited. But Marcus didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. He picked up a training mannequin, positioned it on the table, and he began to teach. Because kindness wasn't weakness. Because walking away when someone needed you wasn't strength. Because the courage to ask the question everyone else was too afraid to speak, and then stay to answer it, was the only power that mattered. And because somewhere, in a place beyond grief and loss and time, Simone was watching, and she was proud.